So this is going to be the first video on this channel, actually. So I just want to give a bit of an introduction. I've been using FSD now for a couple of months. Been using it for most of my drives. I live in Brisbane, in Queensland, in Australia. Very hilly city, very windy, The road network here kind of looks like someone took a bowl of spaghetti and just chucked it on a table. But it works well enough, so that's what we're working with. So just starting out here in this video, we have some action through Brisbane Downs. So this is one of the routes that FSD takes me into work every day. So you can sort of see here as it starts out, it does a roll up to the lights pretty well. And that's helpful because in these situations where I was getting every single red light, it allowed it to sort of roll through without any real braking action. And it's especially useful in situations where you have traffic already at a standstill at the lights. Means that you don't sort of have to come up behind them, then brake, then wait for them to progress. If you're rolling up, it's sort of very seamless. Coming up now to this roundabout here, which sort of is the confluence between Brisbane Downs and Stafford. It's a very notorious roundabout for accidents and for idiots. So as you could describe most Australian roundabouts that are over a certain size that way, but this one is on the north side of Brisbane. It's pretty well known. So this is my first and only disengagement here because it just seemed like the car was going to roll through the roundabout, which is probably an overreaction in this case, but it has in the past done a roll through where it's sort of, I'm imagining it sort of assuming it perceives the roundabout as clear and it goes to sort of proceed through, very purposefully, which is fine if it has that visibility and it makes that judgment, but sometimes it's overzealous. Sometimes it doesn't detect cars coming in at the speed they're coming in. So yeah, sometimes I've had to disengage, but in this case it probably wasn't needed, but it's difficult to tell on video how things went in the car. So yeah, one and only disengagement on this drive. So coming through here, this is classic section, classic speed trap, very hilly. Car is sticking to 60 k's an hour, which is good. I've got a 5% offset here, so could potentially go higher, but in this holiday period there wasn't any cameras around. They tend to perch one just beyond this crest here, or up on the sort of the next rise, and I'm imagining they make quite a bit of money from this hill, especially at tradie hour. Good getting over here for the bus, indicating outwards. I'm not sure if it did it because the bus was indicating or if it was just getting over because it was sort of partially in the lane. It could be either way, it doesn't matter. It did the right thing here. Coming down through here, it gets down to about 40. Might have happened because there's no one behind me, and for the most part that's what most people do through here. Coming down through here, it's fine. It handles these very windy roads very well, which I'm very impressed with. I couldn't do this with AP. It would chuck some curvature assist at me and say no, but this is doing fine. So, but yeah, the speed offset itself is actually interesting because it sort of acts as the best thing we have as close to a profile here in Australia. So if you have any kind of offset above 0, it basically says to the car that up to whatever percentage offset you've set, it can go above the speed limit, depending on how the conditions of the road and the traffic around you. So if the traffic around you is going over the speed limit, the car will proceed above the speed limit to up to whatever percentage you've set. So with that, you can effectively, I suppose, adjust its aggressiveness. I don't think it actually affects the car's lane changing behavior, but it does affect how fast it can go. I have it at 5% most of the time because what it does is when you get these erroneous speed limit changes from like 80 down to 30, it will smooth that out all the time, unless there's no traffic around, and then it just sort of does a full regen breakdown, which can be uncomfortable, but yeah, something that hopefully will be fixed with profiles, I imagine. Coming up to this light here, it's an interesting situation. So we've got, it slows down for the yellow nicely. We've got a green left arrow. Doesn't proceed. But you'll notice that as the light goes red, and then in a few seconds the straight through light will go green, the car doesn't proceed. Now I think it might have thought it was in a turn lane here, or maybe the fact that that turn lane light went red, it triggered something in its brain to say I cannot go. So even though the straight through lane goes green, it doesn't proceed. You can see down the bottom a flash of a pedal. That's, yeah, it looks like it actually went by itself there. So it did eventually go, but then I sort of gave it a bit of a kick in the ass to get up to speed because I was wary of people behind me. Yeah, through here it does fine. Not a lot of traffic today, but this is good. I find there's two ways I like to test FSD. One, in a raw, navigational perspective, like navigating the roads without any traffic. That sort of tests its pure capability of handling those road conditions and lanes and everything like that. But also, it also like to test it obviously with traffic, because then that sort of augments that, and how it deals with those same road conditions when there's traffic around is different. So, yeah, it's good to do both, I suppose, to sort of see how the car handles things differently. Coming through here, this is school zone, but it knows it's, well, I imagine it knows it's not active. So it's, yeah, keeps going at the correct speed. Thereabouts. Through here is a good example a lot of the time of this left lane I'm currently in would normally be backed up pretty bad. People trying to exit left. The car will very nicely proceed in the right lane, but at 10 under, because obviously defensive driving technique, if you're in a lane and the adjacent lane is sort of stopped, you want to slow down in case someone makes a bad decision and pulls out in front of you, and you're ready for it, or you got more sort of room to react, I suppose, if you're going slower. Coming through here, I'm giving it a bit of pedal of encouragement to get through this light, because it can be a real bastard if you get that light there and you miss this light as well, and they can get out of sync. This intersection here causes most of the north side of Brisbane's traffic. It's horrendous. Thankfully, not too bad in holiday period. FSD handles this road well in the sense that there's a lot of, you'll see here soon, there's a lot of rises in the road, where the car sort of gets jinked up to one side, and but it keeps it straight. I have had in the past times where the car would hug to the right or left side of the lane. Lately, it's been good, so I'm glad for that. But it still seems to do on rural roads, but that's something I've still got to test after post-holiday update. Coming up to, I think this goes red. Nope, must be the next one. But yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward route. There's nothing to really handle here. I give it a bit of PoE here to sort of get up the hill. I noticed that the car, it doesn't proceed properly up hills. It tends to sort of, it's like there's a bit of inertia in its thinking. Like it will start going up a hill, and then after a certain period it will realize, oh, I've got to accelerate. Now, this is a very human thing. For whatever reason, people don't realize that you have to accelerate going up a hill because gravity exists. But I guess this is where the human training comes in. Or there's two theories, I feel. The car does it because it feels like it's more efficient, not having to power up as much going up a hill. Or the more likely scenario is that because it has a vanishing point that's closer than usual, it can't tell what's over that crest. As a human, know intuitively that there's not going to be a parked car or something on the far side, because it's a no parking at all times road. Theoretically, it's possible, but never happened to me. But that's a human intuition versus machine sort of observation difference there. So the car doesn't have, obviously, the human intuition to know that there's nothing on the other side of that road, so it does defensive driving, which is good. 99% of people would not do that. Even I don't do that most of the time, unless it's a road I'm not familiar with. So coming down through here, this is good. This is the tricky thing I have with FSD, is that a lot of the time it just does things well. So it's hard to sort of commentate, but I I just wanted to give my sort of commentary on this drive as a bit of a tester, I suppose. I'm not sure this is the flight I'm going to stick with, but I do plan to get an actual camera setup in the car to show the visualization, which is very important context. It's one thing to watch these cameras and see what FSD is doing, but it's important also to see the visualization, to see the planet noodle, or what you want to call it, and what it's doing, especially when it's sort of leaving unprotected turns or proceeding through roundabouts and stuff like that. And I plan to give a better explanation of all those systems when I actually get in the car with the camera. So I'll probably do a video on sort of the basics of FSD. Now it moves over well ahead here for this bus, which is good. And then indicates left, getting back in. Beautiful. That's pitch perfect. Driving right there. Most people will just swing wide and then go back in. Everyone around you knows why, because they can also see the bus, but it's contextual, right? So if someone behind you can't see that, there's a parked car in front of you or a broken down car in front of you, and you just swerve out of the way, they may not know what's going on. Whereas if you indicate, it's sort of more implying that there's something going on here. This turn is interesting. Some days it goes in the right lane, some days it goes in the left lane, but it always has that weird juddery hesitation, which is not the most comfortable thing. I've noticed that on most roads where it has to pick a lane. And this is part of a drive home. These clips have just been retrieved from the recent clips folder. So there wasn't any rhyme or reason to it, but it ended up working out pretty well. So this is me living in the vicinity of my work. Coming up to this roundabout here, it's interesting. It's an interesting right-hand side there, trying to see if anyone's coming. People tend to fly through into that roundabout. So there's been a couple of times where I've had to sort of hammer it because FSD just pulls out like it does there, and then someone just sort of comes right as it goes to go. Unfortunate timing. Also here, you'll notice that I've had to disengage. FSD went in the left lane. It has to be in the right lane to turn right. I think that's a nav thing. It does it all the time. It just is what it is, I guess. I believe it's a nav thing because if it was a decision thing, typically FSD 200 meters and less, it's very good at knowing where it needs to go. Beyond that, it's a guessing game. But so in this case, it seemed very deliberate to be in that lane, so I feel like it's sort of, that's what the nav was telling it to do, since it was less than 200 meters out. You can see here it goes through turns at about 18 k's an hour, and then gets going eventually, but it can be a bit stuffy if there's people behind you. Because it's just not, I feel like if they added 10 k's an hour, like in the US, even 13.2.9 in the US would proceed through turns like that at about 30 k's an hour. That's the pace I'd do it at, that's the pace that most people do it at, and it's just, it would make such a difference to me if that was the case. I'm hoping that's fixed in version 14 when we get it, because it's every time I come into a turn, it's like, oh, crap. I'm always tempted to PoE to sort of get it going, but anyway. This is Hell Street, or as I call it, Hell Street, because it's just a mingling mess of people just constantly switching lanes. It's pretty tame here because it's holiday period, but yeah, this Lexus on the right yields to us nicely. That's why I don't bother giving it PoE here. It's going about 45 in a 60 zone. I'll let it do its thing because the person behind me was just having an easy drive. This BYD here sees we're sort of lingering in this lane. He just says, stuff it, I'm going past you. Fair enough. FSD, as you'll see here, always waits to the very last inch of a collapsing lane to merge across. I don't like that. It's technically fine, but in situations where this car is banked up in the adjacent lane, it comes across as an aggressive, asshole-ish move, and I don't like it. But anyway, this is always interesting. I kind of wish this clip was some actual normal non-holiday period PCAL. But the clip ends just after this, but as you'll see, this lane we're currently in is a transit lane. That arrow is currently active for us, so the car moves over. I think it does so because of that sort of hatched line going to the right. It may also know that there's the T2 lane. It's hard for me to test that because of that sort of diagonal line, but yeah. Anyway, this is the sort of first video on this channel. This is my first tester, I guess, so hope you enjoyed, and I'll have some more videos upcoming with actual camera footage inside the car. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.